Hey everyone, this is Mr. Wyrick, and I'm going to go over the 1.8 notes. You should have the link to this file, so this is just me kind of talking you through those different slides. So right off the bat, what is a Venn diagram? There's a nice picture of one there with 3 circles, A, B, C. You may be used to one that's more just A, B, compare and contrast things in like English, science, things like that. But when it comes to mathematics, and we use these Venn diagrams to categorize data and say this many people were doing this many people were doing this. And if we have any overlap, we can have that data that intersects and the data that doesn't intersect. So then the third slide there, because the title slide is the first one. How can we use Venn diagrams for probability? If we have 30 students in a class and we say, okay, how many people are in band, and 16 people raise their hand, and then we say, how many of you are in cross country, and 12 people raise their hand, and how many of you play football, and 8 people raise their hand. Well, 8 plus 12 is 20, plus 16 is 36. So if we had 36 people respond to one of those things and we only have 30 people in the class, there's obviously a little bit of overlap. Some people are doing more than one thing, and it could be somebody is in all 3 and someone never raised their hand. So we're going to try to classify that using that Venn diagram so we have a nice visual of what's going on. If you use the Venn diagram, you illustrate that overlap, you show like how people are involved in different things like that. You can answer questions as well about the whole set and the probability of the whole set or part of the set if you have that Venn diagram. So looking on the next one as our sample problem, it says Miss Lucas conducted a survey of 40 randomly chosen students that she teaches. The survey results showed that 23 are in marching band and 25 are taking Spanish class. There are 12 students that are both in the marching band and taking Spanish. So how many students are in marching band and not Spanish? Well, if 12 people are doing both, I'm going to take that 23 that said they're in marching band. I'm going to subtract the 12 that said that they are doing both. 23 minus 12 would give us 11 that are only in the marching band. Then the next question says, how many people are in Spanish and not the marching band? Again, that overlap of 12 is what I have to deal with. 25 are taking Spanish, 12 are also marching. So I'm going to take 25 and subtract 12. That gives me 13 that are just in Spanish class and not in the marching band. It then says, how many students are neither in marching band nor Spanish? So this is where it gets a little complicated. We have to take away that 12 from either the 23 or the 25. Okay, we can't count those 12 people twice, which is where our Venn diagram would kind of come in handy, is we would not have them on there twice. So in this case, I'm going to take the 23 and subtract the 12 from that. I've got 25 in my Spanish class. That includes those 12 in the overlap, and I add 11 more to that. That's going to give me 36, which means how many students are in neither marching band nor Spanish? That would be 4. Okay, so there are 4 people just hanging around in my Venn diagram. They are not inside of either circle. So that's when you put a rectangle around the whole thing, you put that there. And then how many students are either in the marching band or taking Spanish class? We're going to count that overlap because they are doing at least one of those things. So that would be, it would be like taking my 23 and 25 and adding them together. But I know that that's not the case. I've got 4 people that aren't doing anything. That means 36 of the group are in either the marching band or Spanish. Now, this could also be phrased a slightly different way, so you have to watch out for that. If they're saying specifically that they are in one activity and not in both, that's where we would have our 11 students that are doing just marching band, not Spanish, and we would have our 13 students that are in Spanish and not doing marching band. So that would be a 24 that are just doing the one activity. So make sure you know exactly what they're asking for there. On the next one, I said construct a Venn diagram using the previous situation. So again, in that rectangle, you would have 4. If you're drawing this yourself, it should be a little prettier than my garbage one there, but I was just slapping some shapes up real quick. 4 should be inside that rectangle. 11 should be in the band only. 12 people should be in that overlap between band and Spanish, and 13 people should be in the Spanish circle. On our next sample problem, it has these 3 circles for COPD, chronic bronchitis, and emphysema. It says they surveyed 75,000 people. And it says how many people have all 3. So that's the overlap of all 3 circles, just that triangular type shape there in the middle. That's 333. Notice that all of our percentages are going to be very, very small because the people who are not diagnosed with anything are 70,345. So we're doing pretty well as far as health here. What is the probability of being diagnosed with at least 1? When you say at least, that means they could have more. So this would be everyone in all of my circles. But the key thing here is don't count any of the overlaps. So the ones diagnosed with COPD would be 970. Chronic bronchitis would be 2,071. Emphysema would be 399. Then we're also going to add in our 459, 343, and 80 for the people who are diagnosed with 2 and that overlap. And then we would add in our 333. That would be our total number of people diagnosed with something. And then we come to the last question on this page that says sample problem. It says, what is the probability of being diagnosed with chronic bronchitis or emphysema? That means we need to count everybody that's in that yellow chronic bronchitis circle, and we need to count everybody that's in that green diagnosed emphysema circle. But we don't need to count the overlap there twice. That 333 in the middle would count. That 80 that's in the overlap between the yellow and green would also count. And we're still going to count the ones that have also been diagnosed as COPD because it doesn't say anything about excluding it. So you do have to be careful here. We would add those all together and we would put that out of 75,000 because, again, it's, well, in this case, not exactly favorable, but favorable outcomes over possible outcomes. So out of 75,000 people, the probability would be this many, and you could turn that into a percentage and try to guess at what percent of the whole population of like the United States or whatever has. 75,000 is a good sample size, but you have to understand that there's more than 7 million people that live even in DFW. And then on number 7, the same sample problem, the same Venn diagram. This one has some tricky wording to it. It says, given that they have COPD, what is the probability that the person also has chronic bronchitis? Okay? What that means is, instead of taking the full survey this time, when it says given that they have COPD, we are only looking in the COPD circle. So we would add together the 970, 343, 333, and 459 that exist within that blue circle. Given that they have COPD means they do have COPD. Then the chronic bronchitis would be where it crosses over with the yellow. So the favorable outcomes there are going to be the 459 plus the 333. That's favorable outcomes over the number of possible outcomes, which in this case, since it says given that they have COPD, is only going to be the people in that blue COPD circle. Hopefully this kind of gets you on track. If you have any other questions, make sure to hang on to that paper that you're going to work on today. Make sure to refer back to these notes and your understanding of what's going on here. And then we'll see you back in class tomorrow.